Today we got Big Pooh in the co-host chair, and in the guest spot, we welcome Troy Haliburton from the Washington City paper. What's up, fellas?
What's going
Hey,
on?
how you doing today, guys?
Pooh, always glad to have you back. And Troy, this is your first time on the show, so welcome.
I appreciate that, Big Doug. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, man, it's basketball time. So let's get right into it. I'm curious, fellas, early thoughts on John Wall trade early in the season.
You go ahead, Troy. I know you got thoughts.
I got some thought. Well, my biggest thing is the fact that I think that the Wizards didn't really have forward thinking when thinking about the John Wall trade. So, yes, John Wall has missed the last 2 seasons because of an Achilles tear and had bone spurs in his knee and heel that he had surgery for before that. But they should have been clearly looking forward for the future. And as the team that's been following him with all of his progress along, they should have known that he was going to come back looking healthy as he has for this season. And conversely, with Russell Westbrook, a guy who, he has been durable over the last, few seasons, but you can see signs of him breaking down starting last year. So if you had to project what these 2 players' future outcomes would be, I think that they made a very poor decision on assuming that Westbrook would be more durable than Wall.
Do you think it was more a decision based upon, instead of health, it was more based upon just needing to change something because obviously the Wall and Brad tandem hadn't worked up until that point?
Yeah, I think that because the Wall and Brad tandem hadn't worked, and because of some other things that might have led to John Wall's departure, I think that like Ted Leonsis, I think this was a Ted Leonsis as the owner call, not a Tommy Shepard as the GM or even Brad as a fellow co-star. I believe that Ted Leonsis just didn't really see the investment in John Wall with that $130 million that he still owe over the next 3 years. So I honestly think that he decided that, it wasn't as much as of a basketball decision as was a business decision for Ted Leonsis.
Troy, people don't want to like to hear about it, but I continue to believe that last gang sign photo was the straw. I mean, they had told him about that before. Now, whether you think that's a big deal or not, that's not really what I'm curious about. But I do think that is one of the big reasons why he got shipped out of town. Is that fair or unfair?
It's 100% fair. Like I said, I think that this was a Ted Leonsis call. And so that video that came out, I think that very much rubbed Ted Leonsis the wrong way. And you can even see, with some of the subliminal messaging that he had with some of his tweets after Wall was gone, that he's, bringing in Russell Westbrook. He noted how he was of high character and very durable, a proven winner. So, that's my Ted Leonsis speak. But I definitely think that, that video was the catalyst that helped to move John Wall out of DC.
Troy, do you see the Wizards honestly entertaining, we going to get into the meat now. Do you see them honestly entertaining trading Brad, if not by the trade deadline, which I doubt, but at the end of the season once, because I have no doubt that Scott Brooks will not be back. But do you see them entertaining for the first time trading Brad?
No, I don't. Honestly, I think that the way that the Wizards have treated Brad, I think that they're willing to go down with the ship here. And I definitely think if they're going to trade Brad, it won't be until next season. Like, I don't think that they're entertaining it at all heading into this trade deadline. Is because they've already put all their chips in the middle on building around Brad. So they went out and got Russell Westbrook to line him up next to Bradley Beal, assuming that they were going to be able to make a playoff push for this season. And so, I think that what they're looking at right now with this hiatus is that they're looking at, they're not going down in the standings. So they still think that they have a shot with them only being a couple games out of the playoff standings, and with 10 teams making it in the Eastern Conference with the play-in tournament style. So I think that they definitely believe that they have a shot.
Is it wild to you, like it is to me, that Tommy Shepard told incoming center free agents that Thomas Bryant would be the starter, be getting most of the minutes. So plan on being a backup when you got here. Now, in fairness to Thomas Bryant, he was playing well. That seems like an awful big promise to be making.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely an awful big promise. I think that, with Thomas Bryant's injury, that definitely hurt them more than anything with their shots, with their percentage chances of making the playoffs. But at the end of the day, they still have Bradley Beal, who's averaging, 34 points a game. He's leading the NBA in scoring. If Russell Westbrook, if he can come back and look like any sort of semblance of the old player that he once was, which he hasn't so far, but I'm not going to sit up here and say that he has no chance whatsoever of coming back and looking like that guy. If he can come back and just, I think the thing that he has to realize is that less is more. Like, he doesn't have to come out here and do the OKC Russ and try to score triple doubles and do all of these things. He can do less, try to get Brad involved, try to get these other Wizards players involved. And I think that will make a world of a difference as far as their chances of making the playoffs.
For anybody that doesn't follow you on Twitter, can you give your assessment of Scott Brooks as a head coach?
Well, my assessment in one quick sentence: Scott Brooks is a great guy. He's a leader of men. Doesn't know anything about making basketball adjustments. That's the Scott Brooks assessment. He's a great guy. But with no question, he's beloved throughout the organization. He's beloved around the NBA. You can, whenever opposing coaches and opposing players, and they come into Capital One Arena, they always speak very glowingly of Scott Brooks as a person. But his biggest fault as a basketball coach is his inability to make adjustments in a timely fashion. And so this has been going back to, his first year in DC and the 2016-2017 season. When you're looking at a loaded Washington Wizards team with, Otto Porter and Bojan Bogdanovic and Kelly Oubre and John Wall and Gortat and all these guys, Death Row DC, they had a whole movement behind them. And he didn't know how to pull the triggers with the lineups and putting the team in the best possible position to win. I mean, and that didn't just start with Scott Brooks in his tenure in Washington. This goes back to him starting Kendrick Perkins all those games in OKC. Like, he's just a player's coach in a sense that he's just loyal to a fault to certain lineups, and he just refuses to make adjustments. And I think that, that will be the tale of his career once his tenure in DC is over.
Who's supposed to be coaching them up on defense?
Well, they have a guy named Mike Longobardi, who was the defensive coordinator for the Cavaliers during their 2016 championship run. I don't know how prominent he is within running their defensive schemes. I do know that with the Wizards, they could have as good a scheme as they want, but their players aren't they aren't really buying in and playing. They're not playing any defensive scheme. It doesn't matter what type of system he's running. They're just out there freestyling in a sense, and it really causes you watch Wizards games and they have more defensive breakdowns than most college teams and any other professional team in the league. They aren't following any scheme whatsoever.
What do you think about the development of some of the young guys, a Troy Brown Jr., a Denny so far, a Rui? I'm interested to hear your take on their development so far. Okay,
so all right, the first name you named, Troy Brown Jr. This is tough because I tweeted something out a couple of weeks ago that I think it's very strange when you have the front office and the coaching staff not really on the same page, because the front office just gave Troy Brown his rookie extension. Well, not his rookie extension, but they gave him his player option for his fourth year as a rookie contract. So they picked up his option, which is like $5 million for next season. But he's not even playing in the rotation at all right now. And I honestly have to say that I can't be mad at Scott Brooks, because Troy has kind of squandered every opportunity that the team has given him to come out here and show that he deserves to be in the rotation. Now, as far as the two last first-round picks they've had, and now these, mind you, these are Tommy Shepard's only draft picks as the GM of the team. So Denny Advia, I think, is a very good player who has shown his ability to pass and create for others. He's not really that great of a scorer at this point, but he's so young. And the thing that I've been most impressed by with him is his defensive awareness. So I would honestly say that of the Wizards players, he's probably the player who's on the court in the right position more times than not out of any other Wizards player. And that says a lot for a guy who's only played 10 games. The last young player I want to talk about is Rui Hachimura, who I think he's a very polarizing player amongst Wizards Twitter, just because I think that a lot of people, look at his style of play and he shoots mid-range jumpers and he's not really a prolific three-point shooter. And they think that, that he's not, that he doesn't project out to be a good player. But I honestly believe that the team has gotten, or the fans have gotten caught up in what he cannot do and are not focusing on the things that he can do. And the things that Rui can do, he's a fantastic mid-range scorer. He actually has a very adept low post game, and he actually has played fairly well on the defensive end. Like the Wizards don't have one of the worst defenses in the league because of Rui Hachimura.
It's odd to me. Troy Brown looked great in Vegas, and I really thought this was going to be the moment for him, and it just hadn't come together for him this year like I expected it would have.
Yeah, he has shown flashes. And I think that is the problem with Troy Brown. And the thing that's so frustrating with people who support him is the fact that he has shown the flashes of a guy who can come out here and compete, who can, has a competent skill set. But the thing is, he makes so many just mental mistakes, just mental lapses, and when he gets into the game. And for a old school coach like Scott Brooks, that's just unacceptable. And honestly, he hasn't shot the ball particularly well. And when you look at the Wizards rotation, they're trying to, as a team that's trying to make the playoffs, Raul Neto should be in front of him in the rotation. That's not even a debate at this point. Neto has performed at a level that he has proven that he is a better basketball player for the Wizards and their chances of making the playoffs than Troy Brown is.
Will the Wizards regret when Garrison Matthews saunter his way into a deal with another team next offseason?
They will highly regret that. I think that's been one of the mistakes that Tommy has made as general manager. A guy like Garrison Matthews, they should have been trying to lock him up on a 4-year deal, highly lowly escalating above the league minimum, something like what OKC did and with Lou Dort last year. When you get a guy and you find a diamond in a rough player, if you're the owner, if you're the team, you got to try to lock this guy in for as long as possible, for as cheap as possible. But now that they have allowed Garrison Matthews to come out here, and he's going to be in the rotation going forward, and he's going to command a salary that he's not going to make a ton of money, but they would have rather signed him for 1.6 million than to have to sign him for 3.5 or 5 million. Which they probably will have to do heading into this offseason because he's going to command an offer sheet from a team.
Troy, explain to the people that may not know what the two-way deals are that you see so much now.
Yeah, so basically the two-way deals, I think this is the third year that they've had the two-way deals, and this goes along with the NBA with their plan to bolster the G League. And so what they did was they allowed for teams to sign 2 contracts to players who will play both with the G League affiliate and with the with the team affiliate. So, for example, for the Washington Wizards, they have the Capital City Go-Go is their G League affiliate, and they play over in Southeast DC. But if you sign a two-way deal with the Wizards, that means that you are eligible to play with the Washington Wizards and with the Capital City Go-Go. And so if the Wizards, if they have a need for players, they can always bring up those players. But if they, for a guy like Garrison Matthews in his first year, he spent a lot of time playing with the Capital City Go-Go because they wanted to be able to further develop, his skill set. The biggest difference between the two-way contracts and regular NBA contracts is obviously in salary, whereas the two-way contracts, they are only paid up to, I believe, $200,000 per season, whereas the minimum contract in the NBA is $1.1 million.
with the
And real quick,
Wizards.
sorry,
Oh, go
Food,
ahead.
let me just real quick. Is it like in football where you're only allowed to go be called up, but so many times in a season, or that's not how that works?
No, that you actually, well, it's they have a limit on the amount of games that you can play. I believe it's 50. So you can play 50 games. If you're a two-way contract player, you can play 50 games with your team affiliate. And at that point, the team either has to convert your deal to a regular NBA contract, or they have to release you. There's that once you exceed that limit of 50, you can't. They can't just keep having you move back and forth. You either got to become an NBA player, or they have to release you.
So in line with that, they just released Ansys Passes Sneaks to create that extra spot on the roster. Do you think that was in anticipation for Garrison realizing that he's going to have to play more games than they possibly thought, or is that going to be for another big man down the line?
Well, I think that this is a business move. I think that no matter what, Ansys Passes was going to be getting released around this time anyway, because he had a partial guarantee in his contract. And so I believe that guarantee date was coming up in February. So no matter what, he was getting released anyway. Like, so I don't think that just because they released him means that they're necessarily looking at another move. I do believe that Tommy Shepard is going to try to work to sign Garrison Matthews. Now, whether that is, this week, or, whether that's at game 49 of that 50-game mark, I believe that he's going to attempt to try to re-sign Matthews. As for right now, the Wizards, they need bodies. They don't even, they have 6 players who are in they have 9 players who are in the COVID protocol, 6 who have actually tested positive for COVID. And so I believe what we will see is that when they come out of this period, that they will sign another big man in order to, bolster their roster, because, right now they only have 2 centers available, and that's Mo Wagner and Robin Lopez.
I think I saw today, maybe it was Quentin Mayo, put out the touches list. Jokic leads the league at I think 107 touches. Bradley Beal is somewhere down at 78, 76 touches and leads the league in scoring. Is it possible that he's underrated still?
I think that Brad has proven over the course of his career, he got drafted in 2012, he's improved every single season. So I think that when we haven't seen the best of Bradley Beal yet. So I think that he is very much underrated when you talk about a guy who, when the people who are rating the pro basketball writers who did not vote him in as an all NBA player last season, the fans and other coaches who did not vote him in as an NBA All-Star last season are not rating Bradley Beal as highly as he should be rated as one of the best scorers in the entire association.
Troy, let's talk about what fans of off-season basketball really want to know. Is Masai Ujiri coming to DC this offseason?
Oh, man, I keep dropping those breadcrumbs on Twitter. And you know what? I say this. Nothing in life is guaranteed. I'd bet on it, though. Because Teleonsis had made it very clear that he was interested in bringing in Masai 2 years ago after the Raptors first won their title. And Masai Ujiri, I think, through back channels, has let it be known that he's also interested in coming to DC. And, the Toronto Raptors and Masai Ujiri never worked out a contract extension for him. So he will be a free agent this offseason. And I think that the only thing that's stopping him from coming is whatever the offer that Ted makes him. If Ted doesn't make him the offer that he wants, then he won't come. If Ted gives him what he wants, then he will be in DC next year. I think that right now the things that you're hearing about is, giving him, a deal 8 years, probably $80 million, something like that. Ownership stake within Monumental Sports. He could really sweeten this package up for Masai Ujiri, and it would make it a decision that, nobody will refuse. So I think that there's if Teleonsis is willing to put together that package, to send over to Masai, I think that there's a very high chance that we will see him running the Wizards organization next year. And that doesn't mean that Tommy Shepard is going to be gone, because right now he's the general manager of the team. And with the way that Ted Leonsis has set up Monumental basketball, Masai Ujiri could slide right in to be the president of basketball operations and still have a general manager underneath of him. So, this isn't like he's going to come in and get rid of everybody. Like, I think that this will be a marriage that is kind of it's building on all sides, and it's looking highly likely that this is a possibility.
Troy, why have the Wizards found it so hard to find a big three for Beal and whoever it was, Wall originally, and now Westbrook?
Well, I think that they very much overestimated their ability to develop talent in-house. And so once they gave Otto Porter that max contract, that pretty much ruined any chance they had of going out and building a legitimate big three. If they would have never given Otto Porter that contract and signed Jan Mahimi in that same summer, they would have had money to go out and money and assets possibly to go out and trade for Paul George when he was unhappy, or trade for other superstars who have been disgruntled over the last 2 or 3 seasons. But since they had that money committed to Otto Porter, they had to spend assets just trying to dump his money, because they gave Jan Mahimi their money. They were never able to dump it. I threw him into 1,000 trades on the trade machine, and it never worked. But you know what? I think that once that they were able to get that money off, but then they compounded their next set of problems by taking John Wall and turning a first-round pick and turning that into Russell Westbrook, who is now probably untradeable.
Very untradeable. I've always said that the summer of 2016 sent the Wizards into their recent tumble to the bottom of the league with the KD to DC thing. And then the subsequent spending the $120 million on Otto and Mahimi and Nicholson and Jason Smith. What do you think is going to take for the Wizards to actually, with their cap situation, get out of the bottom of the Eastern Conference?
Well, they're gonna have to wait this one out, man, because it's no way that they're gonna be able to trade Russell Westbrook at this point. And even if they were to trade Westbrook, they're not getting back equal value, and they're probably not even getting back 50 cents on the dollar. They're gonna get back expiring contracts. Guys that they're gonna get back dead money. If they wanted to move Westbrook at this point. Yeah, I think it's a real tough position for the Wizards. Honestly, the best thing for the Wizards to do if they want to get into a full rebuild, if they want to open up their books, would be to trade Brad. And I know a lot of Wizards fans don't want to hear that, but if there was a way out, I believe that trading Brad is the only way out.
That or Rui and Denny have to be the top 10 picks that you hope they were. And particularly with Avdia, you're hoping that he actually was the 4th round pick / steal that they think they got, right? Because they thought they were going to have to trade up with Chicago to actually get Avdia, right?
Yeah, they thought they were going to have to trade up with Chicago, and luckily Chicago ended up taking Patrick Williams, and everybody else, with between 5 and 9, ended up taking other guys, and between 5 and 8 took other guys, and Denny just kind of fell to them. But I think that we have to look at the way that the NBA works with the agents. I think that this was planned all along, because there have been a lot of reports with Denny Avdia's agent that he didn't want to go work out for certain teams. And when you're limiting, you want to go work out for teams, or when you're limiting sending them medical information, these other teams, Cleveland and the Knicks and these other teams, they didn't want to deal with this. I think that it was a concerted effort on both sides to get Denny to DC, and actually it's a good fit that makes sense for him as an international prospect, being in an international city such as Washington, DC.
Now, I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, because right now the Wizards are, even though they're a couple games out of the play-in, they're still near the bottom of the Eastern Conference. But have you done any looking around or research or anything on upcoming draft picks, seeing as today the Wizards would definitely be back in the lottery?
Yeah, well, look, hey, I have definitely started pivoting some of my research game to the draft for 2021 so far. And I'd say that there are two prospects I think out there right now that could be franchise players, and that is Cade Cunningham from Oklahoma State and Jalen Suggs from Gonzaga. They're both big combo guards. Jalen Suggs is probably like 6'5". Cade Cunningham's like 6'8". I mean, they got it all. They got. I mean, when you look at both of their skill sets, what they have in the tool bag for 19-year-old prospects, I mean, these guys are real deal players. And if anything, like you say, we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. But if the Wizards were to be so lucky as to add a Cade Cunningham or Jalen Suggs next year, that could be something for sure.
Troy, we talked a couple of days ago, and I know you were telling me that you have an article coming out in the paper soon about what it is that it will take to make it through this season. Now, I have suggested a couple of times they might need to do lots of little bubbles. You scoffed at me when I said that in complete disgust. So please tell us how we'll make it through this season.
Well, the only way, Doug, and the thing is, I'm not scoffing at you. I'm scoffing at the idea. And that's because that's really based on, I mean, it's inside baseball. It's based on personal information from having talked to players, not just players for the Wizards, but with other organizations. There's a 0% chance that any of these players are going back to a bubble situation. It's not happening. Like the players, like they honestly felt like when they were down there in Orlando, and I don't want to use this term lightly. They felt like it was like a form of prison, and like, and that's just wild in general. That to even compare these guys going out and playing, making millions of dollars to prison. But I mean, they couldn't. They're in their rooms. They can't go out at all. If they cross the line, they get suspended for a certain amount of games. Their mental health aspect of them being in that bubble, I think that years from now they might write books and have different whole full-length podcast series talking about what it meant for them to go down there and the mental toll that it took on all of these players. But just hearing so much about what was going on down there in the bubble, there's a 0% chance that happens. It's like they're not going back. They will rather shut the season down and not play at all, not get any paychecks, than to go back to any bubble situation. So I think that, like I said, it wasn't scoffing at you. It's just knowing that the players, and having talked to so many people, it was a tumultuous time for them down there. And I think that when what was it, after Jacob Blake was shot and killed by the police, and the Milwaukee Bucks came out and they said that they were not playing any more games, when they had that very tumultuous meeting amongst all the players and all the player leaders, everybody wanted to leave. And they had just as much to do with them not wanting to be in the bubble as it did with them wanting to stand up for, civil rights and police brutality. Like the people were just tired. And I just knowing that and knowing how much that meant to them, how much it took a toll on them, I just know that there's no way that they're ever going to go back to a situation like that.
What are your predictions for if the season does make it to the end? Your predictions where the Wizards land?
Whew, that's tough. I think they can sneak into that play-in. There's a 10 seed. It's tough because I don't think people really understand how difficult it is to start, how bad they have started, and to turn it around. And just like it just doesn't, like, we have so much statistical databases of teams starting 2-8. We got like 50 years of data. Teams don't start 2-8 and turn around and make the playoffs. And especially in a shortened season too. So imagine it's only a 72-game season. So normally a 2-8 start would be you've only played 10 of 82 games. Now you've played 10 of 72 games. So the percentage of chances of you even turning it around from that point it's very difficult. But I do think that the Wizards, because I think that they kind of got lucky in a sense that because the COVID hit them so hard that they had to postpone all of these games, because they very well could have been in a position like you see some of these teams where they say, no, they only got 8 guys available tonight, or they only got 9 guys available to play tonight. You know, that's putting you in a position where it's tough to win any games like that. But because the Wizards have, been able to miss these last 6 games, they're gonna be able to come back when they're almost at full strength and be able to have some say. I do believe though that their limit is that play-in tournament.
I think this break was great for Russell Westbrook's health. We spoke about it on Twitter. I always believed that quad wasn't fully healthy.
I'll say that they said that was that right quad in the bubble. They say he hurt the left quad. So I don't know what. Look, that's a whole other thing. So look, I don't know what's going on with Russell Westbrook and his legs. I do know that they're not telling that there's more to what's going on than what they're telling us, because it's just little subtle things. Like, I thought it was weird when Scott Brooks said that Russell Westbrook couldn't dunk in practice. Now it's just like, is he saving him from himself, or can Westbrook not dunk anymore? Because I haven't seen him dunk the basketball in a long time. So it's a lot of stuff going on with, the Wizards reporting of his injury. And when the injury happened, they said that he injured himself in preseason, but then he got hit when the season started. I don't know. It's a lot going on. He hasn't played in back-to-backs anyway throughout the course of the season. So, I do think that this rest, the person who has helped the most is definitely Russell Westbrook, because number one, he already had COVID this summer. So I would assume that he's not one of the 9 players who's in the protocol right now. And, he's getting an extra week or 2 to rest where he doesn't have to miss any games. So if he can come back and get somewhat healthy, I think that gives them a higher chance of making the playoffs. But I mean, I wouldn't put them anywhere above that play-in tournament.
It's hard to tell without fans in the stands. But could you feel the difference when Westbrook got here? Did he bring a little more juice than we're used to having with the franchise?
No, for sure. I think that he brought a little bit of juice, not only with the fan base. So I was mentioning to somebody the other day, when Westbrook came here, he has more social media followers than all 4 of the Washington professional sports teams combined. Like, Russell Westbrook in himself is an entity, is a marketing entity. And so he brought something that, I don't think that anybody in DC sports has brought, in a while time. I mean, that's like big, A-list name recognition as a superstar. And so I think that's a big deal for DC sports in general, just beyond just the Wizards. And then for the Wizards, as far as what Russell Westbrook brought, is a energy and a drive and focus that is undeniable. So when you have one of the criticisms of John Wall, over this last Wizards era, it was that he was kind of, nonchalant as far as his leadership skills. But Westbrook is not anything but that. Westbrook, he shows up 2 hours early for workouts. He demands nothing but excellence and the hardest output of effort that he can get from himself and his teammates. So I think that he definitely brought something from that aspect to this Wizards team.
That's what I was going to touch on. I know he isn't the same player on the court, but I always said if the Wizards were to go into a full rebuild, they would be better off with a Russell Westbrook as opposed to a John Wall, because of his, the way he plays, the effort he gives, and his leadership. Do you agree?
I agree. No, I mean, because he don't take any stuff from anybody. So, I don't think that, you can be Russell Westbrook and he leads by example. He puts forth the maximum effort at all times when he's on the court, at all times when he's at practice, and he demands that from his teammates. So I think that when you're talking about rebuilding, and when you're talking about one of the biggest things that we've talked about within the Wizards organization over the last couple of years is changing the culture. And so I believe that Russell Westbrook definitely comes in and brings in a winning attitude. If it's not winning basketball, he's at least got a winning attitude.
Fellas, before we wrap the show up today, I thought maybe it'd be important on MLK Day to just give some credit to the NBA. And really, this year, more than any other, I really feel like that league took it upon themselves as players to do something that I really feel like sports leagues have tried to stay away from. And I really think they deserve a whole lot of credit for that.
Yeah, I believe that the NBA is definitely in the forefront and leading the way as far as professional sports leagues. Well, actually, no, shout out to the WNBA because they're doing it bigger than anybody. So I got to give the ladies their credit. But the NBA, they following right behind them when it comes to talking it like how they walking it and talking it the same way. You know, they practice what they preach. They've come out and, you know, they've not only, you know, gotten their owners to put their checkbooks where their mouths are, but the players were on the front lines of, you know, leading some of these protests this summer. The players are on the front lines of, you know, helping to not only lead the protest, but helping to pay for employees for the arenas when the arena workers were not working and they weren't being able to you know, feed their families. Like the NBA players, not the billionaire owners, were stepping up and helping to raise money for these people so that they can just survive out here. And so I think that the NBA has done an excellent job of, you know, just representing something, and the league behind Adam Silver has given the players their voices and these platforms to speak out on issues that they believe in.
I agree. I wholeheartedly agree.
But yeah, I had to shout out to the ladies, the WNBA.
No
Look,
doubt.
they out here switching whole elections, so look, they got to get all the flowers.
Yeah, you're right about that one, ain't no doubt. Troy Haliburton covers the team for the Washington City paper. Troy, tell the folks where they can find you and what you got coming up.
All right, the folks they can find me over on Twitter at Troy Haliburton. That's HALIBUR. I have an article that's coming out in the Washington City paper tomorrow. It will be about the team's. It'll be just an outline overview of the team's COVID scare and what they will do moving forward. So be on the lookout for that. I talked to General Manager Tommy Shepard, Dr. Medina from the head of the medical staff over with the Washington Wizards. So it'll give you it'll be a peek behind the curtain for the fans to see what exactly is going on with this basketball team right now.
You can also catch Troy on Clubhouse after Wizards losses vintage.
Hey, on Clubhouse after Wizards losses, talking big cash trash, man. Don't tell Russell Westbrook I'm there, though.
Fellas, this was great. We'll catch you next time.
All right, appreciate you,
Thanks,
Doug.
Troy.
Appreciate you, Big Pooh, man. You guys hold it down. Thank you.
You too.